Alright, hi guys, and welcome to another video. This one is going to be all the books over the span of the summer that I have read for my physical TBR. Now, what I am defining as my physical TBR is the books that I had at the beginning of the year. So for this set of physical TBR requirements, it's not any of the books that I have bought in the past year, because when I'm trying not to buy a lot of books. And two, I need to get through the ones that I've had on my list for a really, really long time. So, what my physical TBR, now, some of these books I have bought over the past year, these are just all the books that I have not read yet, is going to be these bottom three shelves, and then like a shelf and like 5 books on my other bookshelf that's right there. So that's a lot of books, but I also have made this spread in my bullet journal. It's not really a bullet journal, reading journal, with all of my unread books that I had at the start of 2024. I had a lot of extra book pages, so I have not read as many as it looks like I've read. I'm filling them in with colors as I've read them, and I have all the book titles written in, but there's a lot of empty books just to fill up space. And I started this in June because I didn't read. I got out of school that May 20th-ish. I didn't read any physical books in May. And my summer I'm also defining as when I'm not in school. So I didn't read any now. So this was starting in June, and it's going to the end-ish of August, which is when I start classes. So this is just going to essentially be a recap of all the books that I read and my reviews and feelings of them, as sort of just like a catch-all of all of the books I read in my physical TBR, mostly to get me inspired to read them all. So I actually did already read one, which was The Left-Handed Booksellers of London by Garth Nix. I did read this in my lesser known fantasy reading vlog. So here's that, and then I'm going to color it in on my bullet journal. So I have it. It is right here. So I'm going to color that in. I just pick whatever color. I just picked pink color. I probably shouldn't have picked because the book next to it is colored that way. But just coloring it in. And there we go. No, there, yes. Something I realized I forgot to mention, I have it over here. My total count at the beginning of the year was 105 unread books, which is crazy. I never wanted it to get that large, but also more than half of my books are read, which means I have, I'm going to say at least 150 read books, which is crazy, but that's that. And then I'm going to update this video as I read the books, so that it won't be one full sit-down video, it'll be multiple sit-down videos. So, back to The Left-Handed Booksellers of London by Garth Nix. I really, really enjoyed this book. I wasn't super invested, but I had such a good time reading it. I ended up rating it 4 stars, I believe, and as of right now, I do not have and have not read the sequel, but I definitely plan to. I feel like this book just was a blast. It was kind of ridiculous. There was just so many fun things that came up, even though it wasn't necessarily fun for the characters, but it was just super fun to read about. And I loved our 2 main characters, Merlin and Susan, and I loved their dynamic, and I loved the lore of all of it. We have Cauldron Born, we have trolls or goblins, we have Fenrir, werewolves. What else were there? Sippers, which are vampires. So that was super fun, and some other fun, it's just a blast how we're introduced into the magical aspect of this world. And I think it was super, super fun. I definitely closed up relatively well. The story ended. It's not it ended on a cliffhanger for the second book. But I did have just such a good time reading this, and I really do recommend it. I feel like I've never heard anyone read this book, which is why it was in my lesser known fantasy video. And I really would recommend for more people to read this. If you like the Mortal Instruments series, you would really like this book. and it's, I wouldn't say, it kind of reminds me of the Infernal Devices as well, but it's not as historical. It's set in, I think, the 1980s, not back in Victorian London, but it is set in London. And I think it was great. And, you know, that's all that matters. So, there's one down, 100 and, no, I started with 105, but I've now read 9 books. So it's 96 to go. One down, 96 left to read. Obviously, I'm not going to read all of these, especially because in the middle-ish of July, I'll be moving to my apartment, and I can't take all of these books with me, but I will take what I can. So that's this, and then the next book that's on my physical TBR that I'm starting is also for this reading vlog. It is somewhere, and it is The Mountain in the Sea. I'm very excited for that book. I'm so excited. I've been excited to read that book since I got it last Black Friday, so I can't believe I put it off this long, but yeah. So I'll see you next time I finish a book on my physical TBR. Hello, so I'm back to give you a recap on a couple more of the books that I have read on my physical TBR. So I accumulated a couple over the past week, so I figured I'd wait and do them all at once. So the first book we are starting with is, did I talk? Yes, I talked about that book. Sorry. Is The Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this because there's like a 15-minute rant in my reading lesser known fantasy books video, and I don't want to put you through that torment multiple times. But I gave this book a 4.5 stars. The first bit, I was a little bit disappointed with how focused on artificial intelligence and sci-fi-y stuff that was happening. But towards the end, as I was drawing connections between the different point of views and between the AI, I started to actually really appreciate it. So I really liked that aspect of it, despite not thinking I was going to. And I loved the octopus aspect. It was really interesting. I'm a little sad that there wasn't more on the octopuses, actually, but especially because the blurb on the back talks so much about the octopuses, and then I really feel like they were put on a back burner and the forefront really was on the AI. But what can you do? Probably have them write a better blurb. But I did enjoy this book. So again, if you want to see my full-on rant about in-depth things about this book, go check out that other video. And then the next book on my physical TBR that I read. Okay, next book on my physical TBR that I read was A Court in Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I read this book as a part of my 24-hour readathon. This book was hefty. It took me 10 hours to get through. It was a lot. I think I would give it maybe a 4.5. I'd have to see what I rated ACOTAR because I like it slightly more than ACOTAR, but it's not a 5 star, so maybe 4.5. I think it was a little long. I think a couple of scenes definitely could have been cut out. Things could have been shortened, but there was a lot that we were exploring in terms of world building, meeting new characters, so I get why it was long. Feyre kind of gets on my nerves. I feel like her character like jumps between personalities sometimes. But I really liked Rhysand. I think he's a great character. I think he's a great person and has done so much for other people. And I love that about him. And then, yeah, I think this book ended, it didn't end well. It ended horribly, but I think it had a good ending for a book, you know. So, and I'm excited to start, I think, A Court of Wings and Ruin is next. So I think I'm going to start that in a couple days, probably. So that is A Court of Mist and... Sorry, I think it was just a gigantic shadow going through my backyard. That was crazy. Okay. And then the next book that I read, this was also part of my 24-hour readathon, was This Winter by Alice Oseman. I really like this book. I like everything Alice Oseman writes, so this book followed the Spring family and a little bit of Nick's family, but mostly it was about the Spring siblings on Christmas Day after Charlie had gotten out of his stay in the psych ward, and kind of the implications of that on your family. And it was a pretty deep book, especially for, you know, a Heartstopper. When you think of Heartstopper, you think of like cute and bubbly and adorable and just like you love Nick Nelson and Charlie Spring. So this one was definitely a bit darker, but not blatantly so. Like it wasn't triggering, overly triggering, but as someone who is quite literally Tori Spring in this universe, there's a little, like there was a scene that occurred in this that quite literally word for word has happened in my own household, so that was crazy. But yeah, so that was this winter. I'll probably rate it 5 stars. Was it really 5 stars? I don't know, but I love Alice Oseman and I have a good time reading all of their books, so 5 stars. Alright, I will see you when I read more books on my physical TBR, but yes. So, another update of a book that I read this summer in a new location since I'm actually moved into my apartment now. But the next book on my physical TBR that I read was Silver in the Bone by Alexandra Bracken. This one I gave, I think, like a 4.25-ish star rating. I really liked it. I had a bit of a hard time getting into it at the beginning, but I think that was just because it was a fantasy, and fantasies always take a while, especially when I haven't been reading fantasies. Even though it would have seemed like I was reading fantasies, but there was a big jump between this book and the last book I read for my physical TBR, so. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I love Alexandra Bracken's writing. All of her books are always going to be above a 4-star for me unless it's like there's got to be a fluke if it's below a 4, or did I say 5-star? I meant 4-star if I said 5-star, but 4-star. So I really like this one, and I went and got this copy signed, and then I got Mirror of Beasts, which is the second book in the series, and I also got that book signed. But yeah, I really liked it. I really like Tamsin's character. This is, so obviously, as I said, I went and got signed, went to her book signing event in Orlando. And like kind of we talked about there is Tamsin isn't necessarily a likable character, but I really liked her. I just think she had a lot going on, and she was very dynamic and wasn't very, like, there just was always something. So I had a great time. Hello guys, so it is officially my last update for this video. Don't mind the mess behind me, we're just ignoring it. But I have finished 2 more books over the summer, which is City of Lost Souls, the second to last book in the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare, and Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren, who for the longest time I did not know was 2 people, but they are 2 people. Hi, Wendell's trying to get my attention. So let's talk about City of Lost Souls. This book was kind of my workbook, so not doing work in it, but book to read while at work. So since moving into my new apartment and going back to work, a lot of times I work at a daycare when there's no kids, like, need something to do, so I was reading this a lot. And I actually really liked this book. I think compared to most of the Mortal Instrument books, let's see if I can get them. Wendell's trying to play with my book. Compared to a lot of the Mortal Instrument books, I really liked this one, and I don't want to say too much because, like, spoilers this far into a series. I liked kind of trying to figure out if this duo, if you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to be as vague as possible. Like, for part of it, I was like, maybe this duo is in the right, I'm not in the wrong. And it was just an interesting dynamic to be kind of torn between these 2 opinions. But I gave this one like probably a 4.5. Like I said, one of my favorites from this series. And I've actually, I'm filming this a while after I finish these books, if I'm being completely honest with you. I'm like 4 weeks into classes now, so summer's been over for a while. I finished the last book in this series too, and I really like that one. But yeah, really like this one. Really liked kind of it's not really a mystery, but just trying to tease out all the little intricacies of it. So that's this one. And then the last book I read was Love in Other Words. I gave this one like a 3.75. I feel like this book was hyped up so much and I was expecting a lot from it, but I feel like there wasn't a whole lot that happened. Like, most of the plot was like, it's told, every other chapter is present versus past, and I feel like there was so much more plot in the past, and I would have loved just a book of their past. Because I just feel like everything that happened in the modern day was not all that exciting, and it didn't really pick up until like the last, I don't know, last chunk, like this much. So it was okay. I don't know, maybe I hyped it up too much in my head and I was disappointed by it. But yeah, that's how I felt about this one. So that was 2 more books in my physical TBR, and this is my reading journal. Let's flip to, this is my physical TBR page. It is still looking pretty empty. Let me count how many books I read this summer. Give me a second. Okay, so I only actually read like 7 books for my physical TBR this summer. That might not be the exact number. You'll have seen all the books that I've read before. But I was like, I had so much like hope for the summer to get so much reading done for my physical TBR, but instead I just like read a lot of books on my Kindle. Which, nothing against the books on my Kindle, but you know, trying to get my physical TBR done. But that's what currently, as I said, school's already started. I'm working on, dude, trying to scratch on my notebook. I'm trying to not let myself read on my Kindle, especially because that makes me so unproductive. Like I read so much faster on my Kindle, like I'll sit and read a book straight, just sit down and do that. And I won't get any schoolwork done, so I was like, I decided to start reading the Zodiac Academy books, because I was like, I've read the first 4 of them in 5 days. And then I was like, I have classes. I can't be doing this right now. So it's been a week and a half since I've let myself pick up my Kindle. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know this was not as exciting as I was hoping for it to be when I started this video. But that's the way life goes sometimes. And hopefully I will have some more videos in the future about some of these books that I'm reading. Okay, we're not eating wires. Like a boy. There he is. So I'm working on pretty much all the books I brought with me, which are these 3 shelves above my head, are physical TBR books. So hopefully I get through them while I'm here. I have to pick a new one to read now because I just finished City of Heavenly Fire, right? That's the last Mortal Instruments book? Yeah. So. But I'm gonna go edit this video and get it uploaded because it's no longer summer. So I should probably upload this. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you somewhere else on the internet.